content, so you want to learn how to do something in the editing room, it's like you gotta watch a 25-minute video. But speaking of monetizing content, we are now live. We are underway. We are rocking and rolling. If one of you guys want to tweet out the YouTube link, that would be awesome. We'll give people, not that we don't really do this regularly. I know we gave people pretty short notice, but if they want to join, love to have them. If not, well, this will be on the YouTube tonight. We'll have a show for y'all tomorrow as well. So if you're listening to this on Tuesday, you may be getting a two for Tuesday, which is really, really exciting stuff. But gentlemen, what I like about the live show is that, we give people 45 seconds, a minute to come in. So we get to do a little bit of banter. I will say for those of y'all listening that don't want to hear our banter, we're going to talk about the spring game takeaways, and we're also going to talk about 5-star Georgia transfer at the tackle position. So, gentlemen, how are we though on this wonderful Monday evening?
Dave, I think you should go first on this one because I'm looking a little green there, my guy.
I don't want to talk about it.
I feel great, Max.
It's okay, buddy. Dave drank some bad chocolate milk, so if his feed just cuts out in the middle of it, that's what it was. Sorry, buddy. But again, like I said, you could solve that problem by not drinking chocolate milk as an adult. So you kind of
people want some Dave. People always want some Dave.
Jeez. All right, folks. Welcome to Locked On Seminoles, your favorite daily Florida State sports talk show. We're on YouTube. We are on any podcasting platform you may have. We appreciate y'all listening. Make sure that y'all subscribe to the YouTube. We broke 900 last week. I would like to push to 1,000. And I think we can do it. Guys, can we roll the video and dive in talking about the spring game and Amarius Mims, the 5-star offensive tackle transfer from Georgia?
Yes, we can. 3,
let's rock.
2, 1, go.
Our Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, folks, we are back from our fun intro in a very special live edition of Locked On Seminoles, your favorite daily Florida State sports talk show. Gentlemen, I'm going to lean back, metaphorically, not actually going to lean back because then I'll get weird in the frame, but I'm going to, I know. I'm going to let y'all kind of start the conversation about the spring game because I was the only one that was actually there. I'm not going to say I'm more dedicated to my job than both of you, but, it is what it is. So I'll let y'all lead. That way I'm not just word vomiting and there's actually some construction or some guardrails to the spring game talk. So,
and that's where I throw him out because he just, talking some mad nonsense. I'm just joking, folks. But no, like Max, he was there. Luckily, myself, I can't make a 7-hour drive on a short work week.
Trip.
It's a long trip. And also here with my family, Dave has no excuse. But no, it's actually good that you were there actually for us because on TV, Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, it was not a good product actually we actually saw on TV. And
yeah, I thought like, oh, it's okay. I'll just see exactly what's going on in this football game they're televising. That didn't happen.
No, actually, Max, that's kind of like from people I've talked to. It seems apparently that we didn't look as bad as we did on TV because they were cutting off plays. The AC Network was interviewing, I think, everyone under the sun affiliated with the university too. Like we missed a touchdown by Tate Rodemaker with 2 catches from Potier. Missed a great pass breakup by Demore Tate. So, the team overall, the defense looked pretty good. The offensive line looked kind of shuffling around even though they were missing 3 starters. So overall, just it looked like a glorified practice as we know spring games typically are.
So
yeah, Max, do you want to go back and forth on the kind of thoughts that we had because we went back on this yesterday?
Yeah, but I want to comment on what Drake said and set some context for folks that maybe only watched the broadcast. Going back and watching the broadcast, yeah, it was kind of weird. It was like a glorified talk show where they showed a little bit of football, just real piss poor filming by the ACC network. We've come to expect that though. As far as, we can go back and forth on thoughts now, Dave, but it looked a lot better in person. I didn't see the initial 2 2-point conversion, or, some people say it's like a 4th and goal and you need 7 no matter what. Some people said it was a 2-point conversion. Either way, the context is all 3 quarterbacks threw interceptions, but they were basically told, this is one of those plays where going out of bounds is not an option. Try to complete a touchdown. If it's a pick, we're going to lose anyway, so no one cares. I get it.
Now that sounds better. That sounds better now knowing that in context.
Right. That's the context of like, you hear, they all threw a pick to start. No, that's a drill you do. And some people, like I heard Josh Newberg today basically said that, this should be more of a showcase and you shouldn't do that. I think that's a very valid opinion. I think it's an equally valid opinion that, they were trying to do something to just kind of get the game started, let people shuffle in, so they did this drill. However you want to feel about that, but it's not like all 3 quarterbacks threw interceptions off the rip from just a regular 1st and 10.
Yeah, but like it's kind of bad when the first throw was a pick. Next one, just the optics were not good. I think that's just more. That's just more like I'm
with Newberg on this one.
Yeah, I'm with Newberg on that one too. And mainly, I'm just I also didn't understand how I think they only played 3 quarters, and then also a lot of practices. That's kind of like a lot of people are driving up to go see this. You did that. You spent your money to go in there. And I'm just
here's the thing.
We're not watching practice, so it's just it's overall kind of wasting my time and my money to just for being here for a spring game. I didn't come here for practice. If I really want to do that, I could go get credentialed and then stop by. But other than that, this is not my cup of tea.
Here's the thing. You are the CEO. As a head coach in Power 5 football, you are the CEO of a business with 4 main departments, right? Number 1, producing on the field. That's your main department. You have to be good at that, and that's the vertical of your business you have to run effectively. Number 2, you oversee another business vertical of recruiting. You have to do that well as well. Look at Dan Mullen. Great at coaching, didn't have any interest in recruiting, got fired after a 10-win season. Number 3, you have to sell season tickets. It does not matter if you do the first 2 things well. If season tickets are not being sold, you're going to get fired, or they'll fire the athletic director, who will probably try to sell more tickets by firing you. And number 4 is you oversee the donations from the boosters. A lot of people who give a lot of money to this school look forward to events like the spring game. I'm not going to disclose the exact amount, but for someone my age, I would bet I'm probably, I don't know, what would you guys guess, in the top 1 or top 0.5% of booster donors for people that are 29 years old? I give quite a bit of money for someone my age to the school, and I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm saying that to impress upon you. When I get in my car and I drive 5 hours to go watch this game, I want to see a football game or a little bit of a showcase. I don't want to see them doing freaking weird drills that I could go watch the Pee Wee team down the street do that really don't show me anything. So I didn't realize I cared as much about this until you brought it up, but I am in full agreement on this. I think, I wanted to see Jameis's Garnet and Gold game where you see what does the team look like. And unfortunately, that's not really what we got to see on Saturday.
So David, looks like that me and you made the best decision and just stay home.
For you, it was 7 hours. All Dave had to do was drive 25 minutes down the street and come hang out with his friend.
You're a dick, Dave.
All right, well, Dave figures out his sound, folks. We got to tell you about the folks that make this all possible, and one of those is Built Bar. This time of year, you've probably given up on your New Year's resolution, but I'm sticking to mine, and that is eating right. Like I told y'all, I am a Built Bar and a protein shake every day after I work out. In fact, I work out sometimes just because I know I get the Built Bar after. And if you haven't tried their puffs, you got to try them. They're the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. It's like eating a Peep, but with protein in it. They're not just a protein bar. They're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. So guys, girls, ladies and gentlemen, go to Built.com, scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away by the high protein, the low calories, the high fiber, and the low carbs. 17 grams of protein, 4 grams of carbs, 4 grams of sugar, 130 calories. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's right, guys and girls. Promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your Built Bar order. Try that now, Dave. We had you on a host mute on accident. I don't know why.
Weird.
Anyway, but yeah, let's talk actual thoughts about what we saw, because y'all did see some football, so I'm sure there are thoughts there. But guide away.
Yeah, there were positives. not gonna try to be Debbie Downer here, but the very first thing that stuck out to me, like we went into this game thinking on offense, what do we not want to see, or what do we want to see? Max, you talked about it a lot. We want to see us not get into third and longs, right? I counted 4 times in the first 5 minutes that we were in third and long situations, and that wasn't just on one side of the ball. That was on both the Garnet and the Gold team. I just, man, this team is going to need to cut that out if we're going to be better next year, because that killed us last year. It killed us the year before. It directly relates to our success on offense and overall. And it's just really disappointing to see that all over again.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing about that, though. I agree with you. That's what I wanted to see. But the minute you didn't have, I mean, we said this. It's funny because we picked the number 3, and y'all act like you should have, but it was like, no way, we'll have 3 injuries. I said if 3 offensive linemen get injured, you win 1 game this season. We literally were missing 3 of them on Saturday. So
I thought it was 2.
No, we were missing 3 because I think that
I know Darius
Goss was completely out, D-Wash was completely out, and then someone did one. It matters when you're splitting your line in 2. He's one of your 2 deep.
I didn't know Goss was even still on the team.
Yeah, Goss didn't play, and then there was one more that left after like 1 series. I'm sorry, got my notes, but I didn't write down names. Point is, we have to decide how we want to How do we want to look at our defensive line is kind of what you have to ask yourself when evaluating the spring game. Because on one hand, the narrative that we have put forward and that a lot of people around the program are agreeing with is this could be not just the best defensive line in the ACC, but one of the best in the country. In fact, this defense, can one of y'all look it up on Football Outsiders? At the end of the year, wasn't our defense like top 30 in the nation efficiency-wise? Maybe like 38 or maybe top 40?
I think it was like 47, I think overall it was.
Okay, so top 50. So not that great. But if they improve, right, and they go from where they did back then and they come forward, Goss ain't even on the team. All right, who's the big 6'7" guy? Who's our 6'7" swing tackle that was a project 2 years ago that's coming along?
You mean Lloyd Willis? I was saying I know D-Wash and Lloyd Willis are both.
Why the hell did I say Goss? Sorry, man. Sorry, 863. I appreciate it, man. I am terrible with names, and they just kind of float. Yeah, he was the notable missing one. That was the one that I wanted to see play, was Willis, because I said I was excited. Oh, sorry, random thought, but thank you. Yeah, Schrader was the other one. I really liked what I saw at Kanaya Charlton. And remember I said I was going to be looking for him specifically because he's just so big. It's like a shiny new toy. He's not going to start this year, but you definitely see the size there. That was exciting to see him run blocking a bit. Dylan Gibbons didn't play much. I think I'm trying to remember how much I saw Gibbons on the field because I was looking for him. But what I noticed is I went down into the bowl, like down in, where they kind of just would let you wherever, and went back up to the Champions Club for the game, which is why I missed the opening 2-point series. You can tell that Gibbons has been lifting some weights. Like, he wasn't a small guy last year by any means. I mean, he wasn't.
That dude's big.
He wasn't flubby or anything, but like he just looks more. He looks like he's been in a weight room for a year. Like he looks different than he did when because remember we ran to him last year before the Notre Dame game. We saw him doing the take Timmy to tally, and he looks a little different. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. So we have to decide, right? Is this one of the best offensive lines in the ACC, and we think it could be amazing, or do we not? Because if we think that about our defensive line, then we can't really be that upset that our offensive line didn't look great against arguably one of the best defensive lines they're going to face all year.
Yeah.
Or we think they're kind of average, and then we can be upset about it. But I don't
think we need to be mad about being average. I mean, we've been kind of killing ourselves to hopefully get even close to being average. Because I think 4 years ago, Dalvin Cook probably made the worst offensive line in the history of this team ever had actually look decent. So to me, average overall is going to be a huge step in improvement because we don't need them to be all-class world elite. We just need them to somewhat give Jordan Travis room and time to operate, to step up into the pocket, which I think we'll probably get into the next segment too. So to me, like this offensive line, it's not going to be top in the ACC. To me, I think the ceiling for this, if they're fully healthy all year.
Sorry, I was talking about the defensive line top in the ACC. This offensive line won't be top in the ACC.
I would say, but no, I mean, I think this offensive line, if they're fully healthy all year, if you look across the entire ACC landscape, it can be at best number 5. This defensive line, though, the only defensive line to me in this conference that's better is Clemson. And that's because they have a Brian Bresee several players on there. And then Miami, they have a lot of name players like a Leonard Taylor, who I think could definitely be a first-round pick. But to me, this defensive line, I'm not going to, hold it, to them that they got beat up by probably the best line they'll see all season long. So to me, I'm not going to put too much weight actually in the entire spring, because I know Dave was freaking out about that yesterday.
Well, the beauty is there aren't stats out there, I don't think. So at least not on Pro Football Focus. I can tell you from being there and watching, DJ Ferg, go back and watch this after when you get a chance, because we touched on that at the beginning about the marketing, and I agree. I think that was really dumb. I mean, this was you're in a year where you really need to raise booster donations, and you really want Rising Spear to get money flowing to it, because what we're about to talk about in the next segment, we're about to be in the NIL fight of our lives to get a 5-star offensive lineman, and you basically do nothing. You just do like a practice weird thing. And the thing is, y'all got to realize, you watched on the telecast, I think they said on the telecast what they were doing. No one explained to us in the stadium what was going on. All of a sudden, after the third quarter, they just stopped playing football and started running Oklahoma drills or whatever the hell was going on the field. It was like really bizarre.
They used to do that back in the day too. Like, I remember the last days of Bobby Bowden, like they would run like situationals the fourth quarter. So that's actually not that weird compared to what we used to do.
Yeah, and most people probably left, but at least explain it, because no one knows what's going on. It's very awkward. But I will say the offensive line looked fine. I was actually impressed by the run blocking. I think that Benson was your best running back on the day. Trayshawn Ward still looks solid, but it felt a lot – how do I put this? It felt like they were having to do a lot less to get the same amount or more than they would get on standard runs last year. Like last year, it seemed like every run that was big – required, that favorite double pull counter we talked about, or they were always doing some misdirection, or something was always happening. There was never just hand the guy a ball and he goes and gets 5 or 6 yards. And I felt like what I saw on Saturday, there were a couple that didn't go so well, but there was a lot more where it was like that run was successful because of the blocking that was in front of it, versus like, thank God that, despite the blocking, they made something work.
All right. So Drake, you saw it on TV. Max, you saw it in person. Did anything you see, limited as it may have been, change your mind one way or the other on what you expect this year?
Has anything you've ever seen in a spring game ever changed your mind?
Oh, dude, I thought Malik Henry was going to win a Heisman.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And then also, remember Justin Fields in Ohio State?
LaMarcus Joyner getting burnt by a walk-on. Oh, yeah.
And
all right, y'all put more stock into spring games than I do, because I don't think
that's what I'm saying though. Like all these things, like to me, a spring game literally means absolutely nothing except for maybe one question that I kind of want to ask the both of you, and it's more that we saw like Tate Rodemaker probably was the best QB the entire spring game. I'm not saying if Tate's going to be a starter. He's going to be Jordan Travis. What I'm asking is that Tate looked a lot more comfortable, like delivering the balls and more accurate, knowing he wasn't going to get hit. Jordan Travis was in the same conditions, and he was still his decision-making was a little bit quicker. He still had a little bit of that happy feet kind of issue. So, like, do you kind of, like, does that make you worry a little bit that he knows he's not going to get hit? He knows the pressure is going to still be there, but not get, kind of walloped. That he still was kind of seemed uncomfortable a little bit. Like, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't good by any stretch of the imagination.
I think there's a conflation between why the two of them, I understand what you're asking, but I think there's a conflation between why the two of them might have, quote, happy feet. I think if someone like Rodemaker gets happy feet, it's because they're worried about getting hit. Jordan's trying to decide if he can run or not. And I think with Jordan, there was noticeable confusion because there were times where a defender would be nowhere near him and they'd blow it dead because he was like, whatever. And then there were times where they let Tate Rodemaker run for 25 yards, like with guys around him. So I would imagine a lot of that kind of from Jordan was he didn't know if he was allowed to run or not, because sometimes, again, they'd let him go. Sometimes if a defender was within 6 yards but had a line to him, they'd blow it dead.
It's more that like it worries me mainly because I kind of have the fear that like he's still not confident enough that he has the faith in his passing ability, and he kind of, you see on certain throws that he does have that, but when he did have a clean pocket and certain times that it did show that like he kind of didn't want to take that step up. He was like, actually, no, I'm going to go left or right because that's what I know I'm good at. And also that he's like what I mentioned either a week ago or 2 weeks ago, that he's to the point now where he thinks he has to do every single thing. He's not used to having this sort of better offensive line, whether it be kind of average. that he has to push it a little bit further to kind of like, I'm not going to go be a great passer anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and
your
I got
receivers
news for
weren't
you.
getting open. I mean, he has to roll out to give himself the opportunity to run, because it's not always that he runs because he's going to get hit. There were not a lot of open receivers to throw to, and I think that Lance, to answer his question, a lot of it was good coverage. I mean, the defensive backs looked great. Those guys, but we've talked about this for how many weeks? Like, they're supposed to be great. Like, we're very excited about this defensive backfield, and yeah, I don't know, Dave.
Yeah, I got news for you. If the passing game doesn't look much improved from last year, Benson looked good in that spring game. I will, put my foot in my mouth, at least as far as what we saw in that game, though he runs a lot more upright than I expected. If the passing game isn't a lot better than it was last year, I don't know that we're making a bowl game. There's your bowl prediction for the day.
Oh, I think that's absolutely wrong. I couldn't disagree with that more. I think if the passing game doesn't change at all from last year, here's what I saw in the spring game. Your running back room will be just as good as your running back room was last year. Enough. Benson's improved, or Benson's there.
I think Benson's
so Philly's gotten better, and Williams has got. Hang on, let me finish. I said your room. I didn't say anyone's going to be better than Corbin. I'm saying DJ Williams has gotten better. Benson is good enough, and Toa Philly has definitely gotten better. So I think you're going to get about the same production on the ground. So if nothing changes in the passing game, if we have the exact same passing game we had last year, just a few less injuries, you win 7 or 8 games this year. To say you don't make a bowl game if the passing game doesn't, we weren't a passing team last year, and I don't know why why.
I don't think
we were 20 points away from winning 9 games last year.
Or better at passing. I hear you.
Why?
But without the balance there, I just don't see you pulling out those hard games we have this year.
Well, and that maybe is why we ended. But again, 20 points away from 8 or 9 wins last year. Was it 9 wins last year? 20 points away from? Was it 8 wins?
It's game of inches. Maybe it doesn't come out that way. Maybe we're not getting lucky in a few spots that make games closer than they might otherwise
but again,
be.
you don't put how on the scorecard, and it's the same reason they say on the SAT to skip questions you don't know, because every question's worth the same number of points. Why force yourself to get better at something you're not built to be good at when you could be just as good as you were the year before? Get a little bit incrementally better at the thing you're already pretty good at through a slightly better run blocking and a good running back room, and have a better result. Like, people want us to be good at passing because they view a correlation between great teams and being good at passing. I don't think that's an incorrect correlation, but if you, again, judge a fish by its ability to jump, you're going to think it's a bad fish, but we're not that team, and we don't need it.
It's not that unreasonable, though, considering the coaches restock the entire receiver room. It seems obvious to me they think we need to be better at passing, or they wouldn't have done that.
And I think it's more that we need to supplement the running back room with even the threat of a passing attack, like a decent. I'm not saying that our new identity should be passing the ball exclusively, because I don't think Jordan is built for that.
But let's go back to the
I do think that overall, if we want to actually win these 8 games, you probably need Jordan to have a total of about maybe 3,000 yards, 3,500 total yards offense.
I think 2,000 you can win 8 games, because he only had like 1,200 last year through the air, and then I think he had like 700 on the ground. Yeah, so you probably okay, if we're counting both, maybe 25. But hang on, we're getting off the statement. Dave's statement was if the passing game does not substantially improve, we don't make a bowl game, and I think that is hyperbole at best.
Maybe it was just not something opponents had to worry about last year.
But you were and again, you were one stupid play against Jacksonville State from making a bowl game, and you have an easier schedule this year. To say that if it doesn't substantially improve, so you're talking Jordan throwing for like 3,000 yards just through the air, because that's substantially. Substantially is not him getting a little bit better. 2,000 would be
substantially. 2,500 would be substantially.
Well, you have to look at yards per attempt, right? We'd have to look at yards per attempt, I guess, is fair, because he did miss a lot of time last year. But to say we don't make a bowl game if we don't improve substantially through the air, my only point is that you don't have to improve substantially. You just have to be, to what Drake said, good enough to make teams respect the pass so you can open up a run game. And you can actually win a lot of games if your defense steps up.
So I actually have his attempts right here. So he actually had 1,500 yards passing.
Oh, dude. I thought that was lower.
Which is actually that's actually a lot higher than I thought, to be honest with you. But overall,
I looked it up at one point, and I was like, if he had as many attempts as Bryce Young, he would have had the 12th most yards in the nation or something. But with his yard per attempt.
You can't do the plug and play type of thing, especially with the Heisman.
No, I know. I'm just saying he had a very low number of
attempts. That's kind of cheating, my guy. It's kind of cheating. No, I'm joking. But no, I think with Jordan Travis, though, he has also 500 rushing yards. So we need to see an 1,000-yard improvement. And I don't think you're going to see the increase in the rushing yards that much more. So to me, asking him to probably do about another 1,000 yards passing, I'm not saying it's a substantial kind of like jump,
That's
but
substantial.
that's a pretty big jump for passing if we want him to have 3,000 total yards.
That's a
Which
67% jump.
Which isn't asking him to do, give us the world, right?
Well, are we trying to win? Are we trying to win a national championship, or are we trying to just make a bowl game? Because I was arguing against Dave's statement about we won't make a bowl game. I think if Jordan Travis throws for 1,500 yards next year, you can still find 6 wins on this schedule. You don't have a very tough schedule. The ACC is going to be weaker next year, and you could still win 6 games with Jordan Travis passing for 1,500 yards and Tate Rodemaker having to back him up a few times.
You could, but if you want to be confident, that's all I'm saying. If you want to be confident you're making a bowl game next year, the passing it's got to improve.
All right, we'll move on because I think you get locked into this old school Florida State mentality. Like you're conflating bowl game with like Orange Bowl. Like I don't think like bowl game is 6 freaking wins. Like I'm gonna pull up the schedule. Like Duquesne is a guaranteed one, right? Somebody tell the folks about BetOnline while I pull this up.
Folks, BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to get all the latest sports action. Actually, folks, let me pull up the graphic real quick so you don't see me reading the teleprompter. I'm completely joking, folks. But, folks, head on over to BetOnline.net.
Our sponsors love us.
Easy. That's right. Our sponsors adore us. But no, BetOnline.net is the fastest and easiest way to get all your latest sports action. Whether it be UFC, NHL, baseball has just started, and the Marlins have already disappointed me. And as Dave said about a week ago, we're already eliminated for the playoffs. But, folks, if you can have a little better teams, like Dave has the Yankees, Max doesn't have any other team, but head on over to BetOnline.
I got a lot of Nats hats. I'm a Nats fan. I got a lot of Nats hats.
If you want to bet on the Nats and not finish in the last place, trust me, those folks.
Sorry.
Now you're not doing that. Then we're not going to give that kind of gambling advice on here, folks. But folks, head on over to BetOnline.net and use Locked On. That's promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON, and you'll get 100%. That's right, folks, a 100% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Once again, promo code Locked On, LOCKEDON. BetOnline, where the game starts.
So yeah, I mean, again, like I said, there's a difference between making a bowl game and like making a great bowl game, because we're talking about 6 wins, and you look at this schedule, and it's like Duquesne's a guaranteed win, I hope, but but honestly, it is, right? And we've already said this. I will start donating to Georgia State and become a Panthers fan, right? If we don't beat Georgia Tech, Syracuse, and the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. So all you have to do, once you have those 4 games in there, you just have to find 2 more wins in your next 7 games against LSU, Louisville, Boston College, Wake Forest, NC State, Clemson, Miami, and Florida. You just have to beat 2 of those teams to make it to a bowl game. You should. Now, I don't think just making it to a bowl game is good enough, by the way. I think that we should try to win 7 or 8 games, because I think that if we barely squeak into a bowl game next year, I'm really not going to be excited about the way the season ended. My point was just, if Jordan Travis stays the exact same, I still think a bowl game is a very, very easy floor next year. And yeah, I'm with you 863, because that's the thing, right? Is we forget. I don't have Excel open, and I don't know how.
That's a good question or a good point.
Well, hang on.
I about to say, because like if
11 is throwing me off.
That's not that crazy. 200 yards a game,
which is about 2,400 yards passing. Which to me, that's granted, fairly. We haven't seen Jordan Travis be healthy for a full season, which is probably the other thing you kind of have to add into that.
You have to account that, right? At this point,
and the offensive line,
and the offensive line too, because he hasn't had the best supporting cast around him too. Also, if we're going to put that in there, but it's just if we're asking him to only have 200 yards per game, that's not asking the world of him. And it's something he's never done. So that, it's fine to question that.
James Blackman did it in 2019. So.
Yeah. And again, it's not that crazy. It's just you're asking for a lot of improvement from a kid who has never been asked to do that. So what is that? 7.9. How many attempts did he have last year?
194.
Okay. So let's look at it this way. He had 7.9 yards per attempt last year, right? Is that right? Am I reading that correctly?
You are reading that correctly. 7.9 yards average.
All right. So 7.9 yards per attempt. If we break that down, then he would need 316 attempts to get to whatever. That's 26 attempts a game. Or is that per completion? 7.9. That's 7.9 yards per completion.
Yeah.
It's got to be. All right, so we need him at 26%. So if he completes 60% of his passes, right? So it's divided by 0.6. Okay, so so when you break it down like that, yeah, that's a super realistic number, and I'm fine setting that standard. It's a good call, guys.
Yeah. By the way, Max,
he would need to throw the ball.
Blackman broke 2,200 yards twice. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. So here's how the numbers shake out. If Jordan Travis were to not improve at all, 7.9 yards per throw. Okay, so no improvement in his yards per pass. I'd like to point out that that's not that crazy because his yards per pass the year before were 8.1 in 2020. Last year is 7.9. So it's a pretty safe assumption. Like we're not being pessimistic saying that number won't jump. That number stays at 7.9. If he can hit 60% completion percentage, he needs to throw the ball 44 times a game. You figure we play what? 70 offensive snaps a game? 65? 70? There's no way Norvell throws the ball 45 of 70 attempts. That's just not what his offense does.
I don't think any offense should do that, honestly.
So yards per pass has to go up.
So his yards per pass has to go up. Or his completion percentage, but I don't think 60 is that. Like
65 isn't that unfair to...
Which also goes...
No, I mean, last year was... All right, let's say it stays the same as last year, because I gave him 60, but why don't we give him 62.3, right? Last year it was 62.3. So, yeah, it's still 42. So he'd have to throw the ball 42 times. That's just not really... Question. Oh, what's going on with... Oh, I'm glad you brought this up. Yeah, we can move on. We've been on this for a while. That was in my notes. The tight end room is screwed.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm really glad you brought that up. I was doing a lot of yard work today. I was listening to podcasts, and I had this thought. We keep saying we need another transfer wide receiver. Like, Winston Wright went down. I have two thoughts here, so I'll try to keep it concise. But Winston Wright went down, and now it's like, oh, we need another receiver. I don't know if Winston Wright going down really has anything to do with us needing another receiver, and here's why. Hear me out. Because you can have as many great square pegs as you want, but if there's only one square hole, you can only put one peg in that hole. Micah Pittman is going to step up in the same spot that Winston Wright would have been, so the delta there really isn't all that significant. The problem you're seeing at receiver is that neither Malik McClain nor Johnny Wilson is stepping up on the outside. So it's less Winston Wright and more like you don't have a big body on the outside that really is showing you they're a huge threat. How did Florida make up for not having a great threat on the outside? A first-round draft pick tight end. We don't even have like a third-day flyer tight end on the roster right now. Our best tight end on Saturday, head and shoulders above everyone, was Wyatt Rector. And Wyatt Rector ain't that good.
Hey, to be fair, the man was a 3-star QB athlete and played at Western.
No, he's a good athlete. His catch that's on the highlight video is good. It was a good catch. It was a good scamper. I'm not trying to like denigrate Wyatt Rector. But you look back at the tight ends that have come through this program, and you look at, frankly, the level of tight end you need to succeed in the modern game with a spread concept offense.
Yeah.
We don't have it on the roster right now if Cam McDonald doesn't step up.
I mean, this is kind of like where, like, I know Dave brought up Cam McDonald. We haven't heard much about him. I think we kind of saw, like, why. Because he's decent. He's good at blocking. That's perfectly fine. But he's just not someone that you can rely on a lot in the passing game. And we saw also Jackson West, his second year here, he can't catch the football. And he has all the traits to be a super athletic tight end. And Max, the reason why we haven't been able to go for a tight end in the portal is I think the only one that we kind of reached out to that actually was serviceable for our team went to South Carolina with his teammate Spencer Rattler. So to me, like there's really no options there. I know we have 17 tight ends. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some talking to in that room. That'd be probably one of the few kids in there that probably won't be there probably after spring practice is over. So to me, I probably would move someone there. I know I see Johnny Wilson's name down there. I've been saying that, but because to me, I mean, he's just a bigger body. He's a threat out there. So if he can't catch, that's someone to go with.
He's not any more of a threat at tight. Look, that's not a bad point, Drake. But at the same time, if his hands don't work at receiver, why would they start working at tight end? He is a good blocker, but so is Cam McDonald. Actually, Preston Daniel is your best blocking tight end on that roster, and I'll say that right now. We need a tight end that can catch the freaking ball, not another one that can block.
Here's the reality. You're going to have to win in spite of your tight end play because this room ain't getting fixed based on who's on the roster, who's in the transfer portal. You got to recruit the position better. It's going to take a couple years. The position ain't there. Cam McDonald, I mean, he'll just be all right.
And also with Johnny Wilson, I think you can probably have him. You already hear he's working out super hard to catch the ball a lot. I have more faith that we can probably have Johnny Wilson somewhat catch the ball a lot more and be effective with his 6'7" frame and his speed than what we've seen out of Cam McDonald for the past few years. So to me, I would just roll the dice with that and gamble it because honestly, what do you have else to lose besides probably your job next year if you're Norvell?
Well, you have an outside threat to so I think there's a lot of moving parts to this,
fan
Mac,
base?
King Mac. Well, no. I think because Drake, you've been on what King Mac's saying, and I don't think it's a horrible point, but I think it's a little more nuanced than we're making it out to be. Yes, it makes sense. 6'7", good blocker, put him at tight end. But then you need someone else on the outside. Look, here's the thing. If he can catch well, you want him on the outside because you need an outside threat. If he can't catch well, him moving to tight end does nothing. It's just another guy it's another Jordan Wilson, right? That was Jordan Wilson, right? Big tight end. It's another Jordan Wilson from last year, like another good blocker, right? Totally different body types, but it's another. We don't need another blocker. We need someone at tight end that can catch the ball. So if Johnny can catch, maybe he could be that guy. But if Malik McClain's not stepping up, now you've sacrificed your outside threat to bring him into tight end. What we need is Cam McDonald to start actually playing up to his billing, and we've seen flashes from him, or Jackson West, who had an embarrassing drop. I mean, dude, there's times where you see a drop and you're like, that was close. Jackson West's drop, I was sitting in the back, so what was my right, it's like the visitor side of the field. Dude, I felt embarrassed for him. That was abysmal the way he dropped that. Like, that was one of those drops. And I'm sorry, Jackson West, if you're listening to this, but like, that was one of those moments of who let him put garnet and gold on. Like that, I thought we were done seeing that on this field. And again, one decent run from Wyatt Rector, that's fine. But if they put any decent coverage linebacker on Wyatt Rector, he's not going to have success either. So I don't know what you do about the room. I don't hate the point, Mac or Drake, about putting Johnny Wilson there. I just don't know what that does for you as a team. Because either if he can catch well, you're sacrificing an outside threat. If he can't catch well, he's useless at tight end because we don't need more blockers because Preston Daniel can do that.
Yeah, the new tight end, you put him anywhere you want anyways, too, if you're really good. So that's just kind of where I was going with that.
Well, then he's just a wide. I mean, either way, I need Johnny Wilson to learn how to catch the damn ball.
At the end of the day, catch the ball. At the end of the day, catch the ball.
But yeah, no, and then there's one last thing I wanted to bring up, just because we were doing this math exercise earlier. Florida State last year ran. I love when we get to do this stuff. Florida State last year ran 68.4 plays per game. So with Jordan's completion percentage of 62.3% at an average yards per completion of 7.9, he would need to throw the ball on 62% of our snaps to have 2,500 yards.
So 60-40.
Yeah.
Or yards per pass.
Or yards per pass, right? I just literally wanted to break down because I think what I was chasing there was Lance basically saying like, is that? I mean, he literally asked like, is that I think it was Lance. Is that crazy of a number 2,500? And it's not. But anyway,
it's not. And then also, I mean, like that kind of points out well because I think where's the comment? Yeah, it's right here. Yeah, King Max said it was 65-35 run, pass. So if you go from 60 to 40, that's kind of like, hey, that supplements. That's kind of what we kind of want to see out of Jordan too. Anyway, so.
Yeah, and let's say you do 35% passing, right? So times 0.35 times his completion percentage of, what did I say, 62.3?
You did.
623. Okay, so it's 35 passing on those plays times 62.3 times 7.9 yards per attempt. That would put him at like 117 yards a game, so you'd have 12. That would put him right at the 1,500 number if you stay in that same split. Right around the same. But yeah, no, let's get to Andres and Rhinos because that's what we wanted to pivot to talking about recruiting. We'll talk more about the spring game throughout this week, guys. I think that there's still a lot more to talk about. I mean, we had some good notes going back and forth. Pittman, someone I want to talk about. Anyway, but I do want to talk about the recruits. Drake, this is more of a you question. The recruits we're looking forward to for the summer. I know that you've kept a better beat on them. I admittedly can't remember which ones, unless Armella's not here yet, and then I'm excited for him the most, but I can't remember who early enrolled and who we still have in the pipe.
First off, shout out Andres. That's Clay's boy from the wedding. I think you met him as the kid I was talking Spanish with at the wedding. Yeah. What's up, my guy? I think he means more where recruits are coming in, I guess, to visit it. I think that's more, you see the Harris twins were the linebackers that were actually at the spring game. I think in total there was only 10 kids, which is, I'm not going to lie, it's kind of a letdown from previous years where we've had like almost 30 to 40 kids come in. But overall, I think the Harris twins are two kids to watch at the linebacking spot because that kind of shows that one thing that we've been kind of lambasting Coach Shannon for is that his recruiting board is at this point kind of non-existent. So maybe he's kind of like actually going for some kids. And then you have Wookie Denot actually on the defensive line, who Dave actually is the one who kind of told me a little bit about that kid. And that's someone that we really, really should be excited to see. And then, I mean, everyone knows about Amarius Mims. And I mean, that we'll talk about probably on the episode for tomorrow. Because now I think we're basically at the 40-minute mark too. But those are kids to keep an eye out.
Why don't we just stay live and then we'll publish half tomorrow. We'll publish half right after this and publish the other half for a second episode tomorrow. I mean, we're rolling. Let's just call an audible on the play. Let's just send the ball. Or we can talk about Mims for like 2. I mean, let's just keep going. We've got some good questions here. I think Mims is a point of conversation. We'll see where we land.
Okay. I mean, with Mims, so basically, I reached out to my guy over at Miami, and the rumors are true that basically they're definitely making a huge NIL push. I don't think that's probably lost on anybody right now. I know Dave has been freaking out about that because this is basically, I think, what you alluded to at the top of the show and what Dave has been saying too, that this kind of like will show where FSU's, I guess, standing is when it comes to this new era of college football. But to me, I think overall in the end, I think it's going to be Amarius Mims primarily because, one, it's very, very close. He's from the Georgia area. It's like, what, an hour and a half, I think, actually where his high school is located at.
He has the relationship with Atkins.
He has the relationship with Atkins, too, that basically Atkins is the only reason why we're even in discussions for this kid. And quite frankly, if he wasn't in the SEC, he probably would have won Texas A&M. But for those of you that don't know, the SEC, after the February 1st of this year, you need a waiver to actually play for that coming year, actually to transfer in conference if you're not a graduate student. So with Amarius Mims, this is a kid that if we land him, we basically, our depth for our defensive line is a lot better. You probably can bench a Robert Scott or maybe even a Bless Harris, depending on where you want to put him in the line. And he is someone that incrementally at least gives you 2 wins actually on your record. So to me, this is something that we really need to land this kid because we're probably, in my personal opinion, we're in the driver's seat for this. And I think Rising Spear, I'm not surprised that Rising Spear kind of announced this last week. So this is definitely something that they need to get up to the plate for and kind of facilitate to see how this goes down.
Yeah, like you said, we're going to learn, if this does come down to NIL, we're going to learn how serious this fan base and this program is NIL-wise about this new era. But setting that aside, again, I've said this 100 times, the run blocking last year was so bad. What Corbin and Ward did in spite of awful run blocking cannot be overstated. The pass blocking's got to get better if Jordan Travis is going to improve in the passing game. We've already gone over that today. He would make both of those things instantly better over any starter on this offensive line, in my opinion, but especially at the important tackle spot. Getting him in, literally, like you just said, Drake, would change our record next year.
I agree. And look, I think that, again, correlative statistics, as I mentioned last week, would tell you that very few O-linemen can change a point spread. It just doesn't happen. It just, over the course of a season and a game, it doesn't matter enough. But that's statistics, okay? And that looks at huge bodies of data and tries to find correlations. That's not getting as specific as our team. I think based on our team's specific needs and specific deficiencies, yes, this is a kid that probably adds at least a win to the schedule, right? Because you really can't quantify it, but it's like, is there a hurry that leads to an interception in a game you lose by 4 points that maybe if he's at left tackle, that hurry doesn't happen and that's just an incomplete pass, or Jordan takes off for 2 yards. And while it's just one play, that picks the end of it, right? Like, y'all know what game I'm talking about. Or is there a game that you lose by 3 points that if your quarterback took one less hit and didn't miss 2 quarters of, you don't turn the ball over 3 times and basically, again, give that game away. So that's the Florida game. I agree. I don't know if he adds 2, but he definitely adds 1, I would say. Like last year, I can literally say if he was on the team, we probably beat Florida because Jordan Travis doesn't take that blindside hit that sent him out of the game. Just straight up, that's a game he impacts. And you can't say that very often about an offensive lineman. And I think, Dave, I'm going to flip your point on its head and say that not only will we see what are we doing in NIL and where do we stand in that landscape, I think we're going to see, do other things still matter? Because I don't think we beat Miami in NIL, right? I think it's basically one of those situations where you have 2 job offers and one's going to let you work from home and one says you have to be in the office, but the one in the office is giving you more money. Like, we're about to see, does the relationship matter, right? Does proximity to home matter? He's from Cochran, Georgia, which is like, if my memory serves, I probably should have looked that up while I was looking up his high school, but that's, I think, like outside of Warner Robins. So probably 3 hours from Tallahassee versus having to go all the way to Miami. I don't think Cochran, Georgia has much of an airport. So the only way to go to Miami games is going to be for them to drive 2 hours to Atlanta, fly them, or maybe to Valdosta, just like an hour, and fly themselves down to Miami. Point is, we're going to see, like, if they have a better NIL package, which I expect Miami to have because Rising Spear is new. It hasn't had the time to build the war chest, and they literally have billionaires down there trying to fund this thing. Can we still beat them? Or is it literally just free agency at this point where whoever writes the biggest check gets it? This must be a check in the box for Norvell to be a dead man.
He is a must. And not that he's a dead man walking, but he is a must. If we don't land him, that's a big indictment.
Dude, I don't like to get that hyperbolic, but that's
I think he's kind of right
you
here.
might
mainly.
be right. Like, that could be a dominant. That's like the Evan Neal, right? What Evan Neal was to Taggart, because that was the moment we all lost faith in Taggart's recruiting ability when he basically told us we were getting Neal and we weren't even close on signing day.
I think it also shows that, like, if Mims is going to go to Cristobal, who is just now at Miami, who doesn't have the same, I think Coach Adai, who's the cornerbacks coach at Miami, was the primary recruiter for him. But if Cristobal, with no relationship at all whatsoever, lands him over potentially the NIL, whatever's going on with that, and also with Atkins' relationship with him as well, that just kind of speaks more like Norvell is not going to be able to kind of keep up with a Miami that's all of a sudden actually going to be fully committed to athletics and whatever the hell Florida's doing.
Well, and keep in mind, if you've never seen Miami's offensive line coach, I really encourage you to Google it. It's a fun Google. He's like 3.5 feet tall. I don't know why you'd want to go play for him. It's really adorable.
He's produced several first-round picks.
Well, just look it up.
Y'all do have to take into account, though, at Miami. So 2 things. One, your primary recruiter at Florida State, if you're Mims, is not only still there, he's been promoted, right?
Yeah,
so that can't be taken lightly.
However,
Miami's head coach played offensive line. And I'm not saying that's the only factor, but that is pretty unique, right? There's like 2 dudes, right? Him and Sam Pittman that are guys that, didn't he play in the league for 5 or 6 years?
I think around 4, yeah.
Yeah, so my point is, like, that is also a factor. Having a head coach that played your position is a rarity at offensive line. But I think you're right. I think this is one of those things where I can give you a list of 7 or 8 reasons that Miami could beat us for this. But I'm with stoking the flame, and I'm kind of with Mike here, right? Like, we got to trust Coach Norvell. We got to trust Atkins. But if they don't pull this one off, I start to wonder, like, are you ever going to get the big name guys? Because we've seen you can get us a top 20 class. That's great. If we want to be competing for an ACC championship every 3rd or 4th year, and we want, 8 wins is the standard, 10 wins is great, then that's fine. Top 20 classes plus transfers that kind of, are always letting you punch above your weight a bit. But I don't think that's who anyone listening to this show or anyone writing checks to the boosters or anyone writing checks to Rising Spear wants to be. And if you're going to be a top 10 team ever again, and you're going to compete for real championships, right, you eventually have to start landing 5 stars. You can't just, we're not going to cobble together championship teams with 3 stars. And that's right. You miss on this guy twice. I'm starting to wonder, are you ever going to get me 5-star offensive linemen? And if the answer is no, that's fine. But we need to go get someone who will, because if Cristobal's doing it in year 1 at Miami, clearly we can find someone that will.
I don't know that like puts the Travis Hunter thing in the rearview mirror, but at some point we got to start some momentum to turn that around, because I think people are still really scarred by that, and landing a 5-star kid at a huge position of need will at least start the healing process for that, because people are so pissed, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I'll throw this out there. This would totally make me forget about who Travis Hunter is. Because there's not a single game last year where I say if Travis Hunter's on that roster, you win that game. There are games he probably would have helped us win. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I can in my head immediately point to one, except maybe not dropping the punt on Terry Wilson against Florida.
And Jacksonville State too.
Oh God.
Maybe, assuming he's on the field. Who knows if Fuller even puts him on the field then? Because apparently we were playing like, you know what I mean? That's kind of my point. Is he's one. But this kid wins you more games and we can point to the games he wins you and exactly why he's the one that wins.
Because he is exactly in the one spot that we have much maligned this team for feels like eons now. And he also be able to, like you said earlier, protect Jordan Travis from being hurt and missing so many damn games. Maybe we actually win 4 more games. Maybe we win 3. Maybe we don't win any, but he feels like he has that much of an impact. And also, I see you, Lance, down there saying that we need Mims and the other UGA guy as well. That kid's not coming here. Clay Webb is the kid he's referencing. That kid's probably going to go to the Big Ten. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him over at Wisconsin or Michigan.
Oh, great. Another Wisconsin lineman.
Maybe in a couple of years.
Take one. I'll take one or the other. Like that's basically what I'm doing right at this point.
No, but I agree. I mean, it's like we need good offensive linemen if we're going to do it. And, Travis Hunter would have been great. I'm not saying this to make myself feel better, but I will say that this team finished 6th in the ACC with Derwin James on it. So you cannot convince me that Travis Hunter was going to be better than Derwin James. Sorry. I think he's almost as athletic. Derwin James would literally is like if Travis Hunter was the size of a full-grown adult, because no one likes to talk about this, but Travis Hunter's also tiny. What is he, 160 pounds? Like he literally doesn't, and Derwin's 220.
He's a freak on film, though.
I agree, but so was Derwin. And my point was, we finished 6th in the ACC with Derwin James. So to me, you're telling me we could get this offensive tackle? Yeah, I'm not worried about Travis Hunter anymore. That would make me feel like I wish we had both. In an ideal world, I'd love to have both. But you
fair,
let
the
Mims,
ACC was a lot better.
better.
The ACC was a lot better back then, but I get the point. It was. The ACC was not good last year.
Was it good enough for 6th?
Wake Forest is one of the best teams in the conference.
Thank you, Dave.
God.
I mean, it's still a conference. You should never finish 6th in your conference as Florida State. I don't care what conference. I wouldn't be happy with finishing 6th in the SEC, would y'all? Seriously, not with this team. I'm saying in general. As a fan, would you?
No, we're not Miami.
Exactly. Yeah,
I hate losing. No.
All right. Let's get one more from King Max. See what he's saying, and then we'll get out of here. Show this one. Oh, I figured out how to do it. Can't quite put my finger on what's going on with the offense, but there's been zero develop. I mean, here's the problem, King Mac. Sorry. I by the way, I decided today while I was chainsawing some stuff, it was really therapeutic. Ron Dugans is getting a break because I actually really liked what I saw from the receivers in the spring game. Their catching wasn't so great, but I saw good route running. I saw aggression, and I saw good pass blocking. He gets a break. But you have a dude I've literally never heard of as your QB's coach. And before that, you had like one of the most prodigious guys in all of college football. Ask anyone 2 years ago about Kenny Dillingham. They'd say, one of the smartest guys I've ever met, gonna be a head coach someday. Absolutely. You couldn't say enough praise about him. Tony Tokarz might be okay, but we really downgraded the QB coach position. And until I see, you can't convince me otherwise unless on the field, and you're right, Mac, I agree. I think Jordan Travis looks fine, but he looks like he did last year. I do think Tate looks better, but like, okay, he should look better. He can't look any worse than he did last year. Like, I don't know.
What's the measuring stick here? Is it?
They're about 3
Jameis.
feet to yard.
It can't be Jameis. Is it Frenchie? Like, are we measuring everybody against that at
that's
this
a good
point?
question.
Because
Who do you have to perform equivalent? I don't know. There's 25 folks watching now, guys. Last question in the chat. Who would y'all need to see these guys perform at the level of to say, okay, that's a good enough quarterback? I think France. I'd say EJ Manuel or Christian Ponder. I mean, I think that's the level like I would expect us to have by now after a while, because those are the type of guys you should be able to go get off the trail and develop over 3 years.
EJ was a 5-star, but yeah.
He was a 5-star. I would say,
but I'm talking on-field performance.
I would say pre-injury Francois, because I think that year actually was with that. And me personally, I would say Sean McGuire like that. Like I would say Tate Rodemaker do that. Tate Rodemaker, if he's Sean McGuire, I would take that in a heartbeat as a backup. Honestly,
I take Sean McGuire right now. Yes, that's a good one. Yeah. Smag right now.
Smag.
Let me ask you this. Now I will say, because Jordan's so special with his legs, I don't think Smag wins you more games last year than Jordan does. But I think if what you're saying is like how he looks on the field, comfortability with commanding the offense, poise, those kinds of intangibles, all that stuff. Yeah, I think I'd take Sean McGuire at this point. Not over Jordan Travis though, because he just wouldn't fit with the team. But I mean, y'all get what I'm saying, right?
I get what you're saying. Actually,
Like his game wouldn't mesh well with this team, but the
Yeah,
level of performance he had on the
he's-
2015 team, that's the level of production I'd like to see on this team.
He's obviously a better passer, but the legs definitely do bring the more important thing that you kind of need to, which kind of sucks.
Are we better in 2022 with DeAndre Francois as our quarterback than Jordan Travis?
Pre or post injury?
Pre-injury.
Pre-injury, yes.
I mean, that was one.
No.
I mean,
think
gosh. Thanks, Rhinos. We appreciate it. Guys, I'll pre-injury Francois was one of the toughest son of a bitches I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy took hit after hit after hit and got up. And I think that Jordan Travis is tough as hell too. Y'all know I love Jordan Travis, but I owe it to the people listening to this. I owe it to y'all and I owe it to myself as a fan to be honest about what I'm seeing on the field. And unfortunately, I don't think I saw like what I saw last week. I saw the same Jordan Travis I've seen a dozen times, which again, to my argument earlier, is going to get us to a bowl game, but it's not going to be the next step. And I think that's tough. Some stuff's got to develop over the summer.
We got nothing more to add. That you know where I stand on the entire situation.
Yeah. Well, folks, hey, thanks for making this a great live show. We love when y'all get in the comments. King Mac, this is what changed my wrestling career, right? Is when I first was told, wrestle to win, not to not lose. And that's exactly right. This team needs to start playing not to not lose, right? They need to start playing to win. And I think that we'll see, hey, they have a full summer. We got player-led practices. We have new receivers that they've got to sit there and actually get their timings down with. And we've got new coaches. They're figuring out what to do. And let's just hope we get Mims. So, folks, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate if you're on YouTube, like the video, hit the subscribe. We are on the push to 1,000 subscribers. If you've spent the last day or two, depending on how we cut this show up, listening to this, thank you as well. We love you. Holly and Stacy love you. I'm Max. That was Dave. That was Drake. And this was Locked On Seminoles.
Go Noles.
Are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.